today is our 5th webinar series. We are conducting these webinar series for the welfare of the students to learn the practical knowledge as well as theoretical basis during this lockdown period where they are not able to go to the campus to learn. So SS Healthcare, 2 slides just to know about the SS Healthcare. SS Healthcare, you just, if you want to, log on to sshealthcareedu.com. And also we have a channel where we update all the webinars and all the details. The channel name is SS Healthcare. So SS Healthcare was started in the year 2012. Initially, the company ventured into the business of medical, surgical devices and disposables exclusively into the hospital sector. Subsequently, we diversified into research and experimental development services in the medical science and pharmacy, human health services, including homeopathy, Ayurveda, Unani, naturopathy, acupuncture, public administrative services related to provision of education and healthcare. Few months back, we started also our education service for the benefit of students, all UG, PG and research students. So our services, most of us know, but still for the newcomers, our services include clinical trials and research, where we assist in IEC approval, documentation, protocol review, clinical trial management, data management, medical writing, and statistical analysis. And in education, we have online classes, webinars, and workshops for UG, PG, research, life sciences, and medical students. Under research, we do help the research students for the dissertation, proposal writing, editing, IRB submission, statistical analysis, internship training, etc. And also we have statistics and management competency development, online classes and training for IPR. And the next service we are into is product development. And we help in the development of the products, including herbal, phytonutrients, nutraceutical, and other products. And also we help the students who have an innovative idea or who want to enter into the bio-entrepreneurship. So from idea to venture, we help them. So these are some of the services that we do through the SS Healthcare. Thank you. Now I call upon Arvind Anand, mechanical engineer from RMK Engineering College, to introduce our speaker of the day, Dr. Prem Sundivakam. Dr. Prem Sundivakam is a very busy person. So Arvind Anand, can you introduce our guest, ma?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Good evening, one and all. I am extremely delighted to introduce our guest today, Dr. Prem Sundivakam, Director of Medical Affairs and Communication, as well as Pharma. Prem is a subject matter expert and a thought leader who is committed to developing effective medical strategies and scientific content with actionable insights. He has studied and practiced science because he has always been motivated to create things that are newer and better. He strongly believes that his training prepared him to be an adaptable problem solver and capable of taking on a wide range of demanding assignments with little assistance. For more than 17 years, Prem has successfully led numerous medical excellence programs and has established new value creation opportunities to provide right information to the right people at the right time. In the long term, Prem is interested in identifying the structures, processes, and capabilities that are essential to improve the stakeholder engagement while working towards developing the core value-added activities in medical affairs function. The activities include, but are not limited to, addressing how to embrace the power of technology to position the science and to inform their interactions with stakeholders, how to minimize the role of real-world data to drive scientific excellence, and to build strategic leadership, know how to achieve strong partnerships. Prem has a PhD in pharmacology and vascular biology from the Tamil Nadu Dr. MGR Medical University. He has received his MBA from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign with concentration in strategy and in leadership. He has published over 25 highly cited peer-reviewed research manuscripts and has served on editorial review boards of several journals. He was a distinguished fellow of American Heart Association from 2011 to 2013 and American Endodontics Association from 2014 to 2015. Prem has leveraged his expertise to serve at several professional and non-profit organizations. He has held committee appointments and membership on advisory councils to promote innovation and community engagement. During COVID-19 pandemic, he founded an online music school to support the families of 27 visually impaired musicians in India. Thank you.
Thank you, Aravind, for an elaborate introduction. Over to you, Dr. Prem.
Thank you so much, ma'am, and thank you, Aravind. That was a wonderful introduction. I really appreciate that. And let me share my screen.
Yeah.
And please confirm if you see it.
Take your time.
Yeah, it should be available now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much again. So it's been a pleasure to be here today, this morning. I mean, this is morning to me here and evening to you today there. And it's been pouring outside like it's heavy rain, and it's a beautiful morning, Monday morning at 7:30. I'm up and active and energetic as I should be. And this is more exciting because I get to speak with a lot of my people back in India, and I hope you're all doing pretty well, especially during this COVID crisis. I know there's a lot of challenges across going to schools and colleges and universities and doing research and all the regular activities. And I hope everyone stays well and get back to the speed soon. I'm going to move on to my next slide. And of course, as you all know today, that the presentation is going to be more towards how to skew your job application practices, especially if you are a master's or PhD candidate. It also applies to a bachelor students, but just I wanted to focus more towards that the candidates who have little more experience in the field. And thank you so much for the SS Healthcare, and congratulations for this 9 years of your journey, and a lot of activities, and I could see that, a lot of efforts and a lot of help to the community.
Thank you, Dr. Prem.
My pleasure. So like I said, today's objective, obviously based on what the title was, I'll be spending most of my presentation in how to identify the job opportunities and how do you stand out of the whole crowd. Like these days, if there is a job opening, there are like at least 1,000 to 2,000 people, even more sometimes, like people apply. Like how can you stand out from the rest of the crowd? Because everyone has masters, everyone has PhD, everyone is competitive, but you wanted to be out of the whole crowd. So I wanted to spend more time. But before I do that, I also wanted to spend some time, little bit time of what are the opportunities you can think of. When you think of a research industry or a life science industry, you always think about the R&D part, but there are a lot more that you can offer having a master's and PhD. So I wanted to spend little time in the beginning before I jump into my the real objective of the study, the presentation. And little bit about me, and I think Dr. Sheila, ma'am, can speak for me because I'm very proud to say that I'm one of her first students, like 26 years before. I think, yeah, 26 years before when I stepped into my, when I stepped into my BSc degree in one of the colleges, and she was the first lecturer who taught me biochemistry. So when I remember biochemistry, I remember Dr. Sheila, ma'am. So that's how I'm well connected. So you can see now it's 26, 27 years, we are still connected, and I really admire everything what she does, and congratulations again.
Thank you, Dr. Prem.
And she, I mean, you could tell from all her guidance, and like, you know, if I'm here, I'm sure you can be there too. And in fact, you can be better than me as well. So just to start with, I was a very average biochemistry student. Again, she can vouch for me. The one thing which always kept me awake and kept me active is that I never stopped learning. I always wanted to learn something new, right? That's something which is always in my mind. I was a little crazy because sometimes I wanted to try something different. And I also love thinking a little different. Like I know sometimes people think you're crazy and, you know, it doesn't make sense, but, you know, you never know. Sometimes things work in your favor. And I like to talk. That's one of my biggest assets, I always think. And I always take little initiatives because I'm the one who always try to take the first step, because I don't wait for the opportunities. I always go and find my own opportunities. And yeah, of course, having my master's and the PhD and some research experience and on my MBA, of course, I do have some domain knowledge, but that's only a 20% of what I am. The remaining is what I listed here above. So it's my interpersonal abilities. Well, professionally, yes, I think Arvind did a wonderful job. He kind of introduced me about like what I am, what I have done in the past. In addition to that, I also taught in many colleges in the United States, and I served as a consultant in few companies where I kind of helped in building research ideas and product development, so on and so on. And yeah, so I used to be an assistant professor in the University of Illinois and 2 other universities. And I also founded a company a couple of years before. I'm still working with that on that. Okay, so if I wanted to start my presentation today, I wanted to start this way because this is something which always inspires me. So if Bill Gates, I'm sure like you all know Bill Gates, if he wanted to go and study in college, he believes life sciences is one of the fields he would like to focus. I didn't say this. It was him who said that. I mean, why do we care what Bill thinks? Like, you know, right? I mean, do you really care like what Bill thinks? Yes, of course, because he is a very successful businessman, and he forecasted, he predicted the future like 30 years before, and now Microsoft is in history. And now he's thinking life science is the next field that people need to focus on. Then it makes sense that it is growing. So when it comes to job landscape, I know this is a pretty busy slide, overcrowded, and I didn't expect you to read each and everything, but I just wanted to give you a full view of where you can fit in your job, right? It's not just R&D. If you look into a life science product, it could be a drug or a diagnostic product. It starts all the way from the idea, right? And all the way to where it goes to the patient and whoever the end user is. So there are multiple stages in the product development, like R&D, and it becomes like it gets into the clinical trials, and like there are multiple phases in the clinical trials, and there is some post-approval, and there is like FDA approval, or like, you know, in India, federal government approval, and so on. And there's a lot of data management processes, and there are a lot of insurance processes like Medicare and Mediclaim and so on. There are a lot of spaces where you can fit in with your degree. That's exactly what you should realize. So if you think like this is R&D, I think you're not well informed. I think you should start thinking big. And you would realize at the end of the presentation that what I mean. When it comes, I think of all the slides I have today, this slide is more important in my opinion, because what they expect in the job. Of course, like I said in the beginning, everyone has a master's degree, everyone is competitive, everyone has a PhD, everyone has a research degree or whatever it is. But what it is going to make you a little different, because what people are looking at you in your career, when they want to hire you, what they actually want to see from you. One, they want to know like you have the ability to address the issue, whether you can address any problem efficiently. Can you analyze the problem? Can you evaluate the condition? Right? Are you able to solve a problem? You know, can you use the whatever the solution you derived on your patients or in your end users? So these are very basic qualities. This has nothing to do with your master's in biochemistry or in biomedical engineering or whatever, or PhD in pharmacology or whatsoever. These are very basic qualities, right? So everything what you do in your daily life, including like ordering a food from outside or driving a car, you want to address the issue properly. Like when you're driving a car or a bike in the street, you want to know where the problems are. You want to know whether can you handle that problem. You know, I mean, if there is a pothole, if there is a big dent in the road, you want to know how to navigate through that and drive safely. And you have to find a solution, and you have to let others know, hey, here there is a big hole in the street, and you have to be careful. So they wanted to know, every company, every employer is looking for someone like you, who have the ability to analyze the problem, solve the problem, and use the problem appropriately, right? Science, Of course, we all have a degree, we can easily understand science, but they want someone with this kind of ability to do in the job. So I put together this slide. I just wanted to call it a SMART strategy. So you have to realize and use your potential specifically, right? This is very simple because I'm not an expert, but I'm an expert by experience because I've spent all these years. I walked your shoes. I've been like you before. Like 20 years before, I was like you. I started with no idea what I'm going to do next. Even after my master's, I have no idea what kind of job I will be getting into and where my career is going to be. But if you start focusing on the small things, this is what actually is going to get you right there. For example, the first thing is you need to be specific. You have to make a list first. Like you want to know what I'm going to do, what is actually interests me. I know like I need a job, but if I get into a job, will I be happy? So if you want to be happy, you know, make that list. If you want to order food, you want to know like what the food you would enjoy. I know you are hungry, you can eat anything, but at the same time, you want to buy a food which you like. So then you will start enjoying the food, right? You have to make the list first. And you have to measure. You have to realize where you are. You know, if there's any gap, yes, everybody has a gap. Everybody has a knowledge gap. Everyone needs to learn every day, you know, but you need to know where you are first, you know. And the third one is make sure you can accomplish reasonably, because set yourself a reasonable goal. Don't overstretch too much. Take one day at a time, 1 week at a time. Make small goals. That small goals will add up to a big goal in the near future. That's exactly how the success comes. And your goal should be relevant. Like I said in my second point, your goal should be something that aligns with your values, because if you are good at something, you should focus your career towards that. I will get in detail in my future slides. I'm just giving you the strategy because this is exactly what I think is going to work. And also, you have to set a realistic timeline for yourself. You know, I know you can achieve things in 6 months or 6 years or 60 years. That you have to decide, you know, how far you can wait for that success. Yeah, you have to set up yourself for success. You have to get a fresh perspective. I know, like I was saying in my previous slides, that when you get your master's or when you get your PhD, you always think like, I am going to be in the R&D lab. That's all I can get into. No, change your mind. Get a fresh perspective. Things are changing. Companies are looking for people like you to do a lot of different things, not just the research lab work, like wet lab work. And you have to identify the challenges. You want to know like where the challenges are, what people are actually looking for. How can I build myself? How can I make myself strong and so that I can solve the problems, solve the challenges, right? And again, always keep a check on your values and priorities, like, because that's more important, because that's exactly what is going to make you stay in the job for a long time. You can get into a very exciting job, but if you don't like it, you cannot attain success, right? So you need to understand the full life framework, right? You have to think like next 30 years, if I am in this kind of a job, then I will start enjoying, I'll do more. So now going back to the same slide I was showing, now look at it. There are a lot of opportunities, right? I'm sure like you all would agree. I mean, I may have like just kind of listed few here, that there are like maybe 30–40% which I never even listed here. So there are hundreds and hundreds of different opportunities, and a lot of companies are looking for people like smart people like you, right? So now I actually wanted to go to the real part of my presentation. This is exactly what I promised, and I'm getting there right now. So first, I would like to start where to look for job openings. Right? I know you have a lot of ideas, but and I don't have anything different, but I'm just going to go in little detail on that. Now, how do you dissect the job description? Because every job description is asking pretty much the same thing, but you have to split it out. You have to break into pieces so you can understand and you can apply it accordingly. And identifying your skills. Like, you need to know what you are good at, right? I know you can do Western blot, you can do like RT-PCR, but that's different. Everybody can do RT-PCR, everybody can do Western blot. Even if you don't know Western blot or RT-PCR, you can learn within 2 months, right? So that's not what companies are looking for. Just stop thinking like that's your strength. That's not the only strength you have. You have more strength than that. You also need to know about the organization, right? Or what the company is about, because what they are actually looking for, what kind of people are they looking for. I need to know how you can build connections within the company, you know? So those are the things I'm going to focus a little bit on in the presentation today. And I'll be more than happy to answer your questions at the end. And also, I'll be more than happy to, if you would like to connect with me, I have my information at the end of the presentation. This is a beautiful slide. I kind of recently read an article. This is a projection how Indian pharmaceutical workforce is increasing. As you see in this first graph here, there's like almost 250% increase in the need for people like you, right? So as you can imagine, the jobs are increasing. But this projections was made last year, but after the COVID, I'm sure like this would be now 400%. I will not doubt about that point. The pharmaceutical job industry market is growing exponentially, drastically, and at a very fast rate. And so this is about the percentage of the manufacturing facilities in India. Look at this. This is great because after US, and India is at the very third place. This is India. It's even more than China and Canada. So what does this mean? This means that India is investing more on pharmaceutical companies, and which eventually means investing more on people like you. They actually need you, right? So this is a very promising time of the era, and you have a wonderful future. I mean, all you have to do is just make yourself available for that. And again, where to find the job opportunities? I mean, you know that better than me. You know all these like job portals. I don't have to tell you. You have every idea where to find it. But the point here is, how do you dissect the job description? So what I did was I actually took Indeed for an example. I have a few examples in my presentations because I thought that would make sense. So I just took one website here, which is Indeed. I'm sure like you're all familiar. All I did was I just put some pharma as a search term. And I found around like 4,000 jobs. Like this was like a couple days. This was a couple days before I saw like it was 4,000 jobs. So just putting your word pharma, you see about 4,000 jobs. It could be anything, anywhere within the country. But there are that many jobs open right now. So if you can imagine, if you go back and look into all these websites, I'm sure like you will see more than 50,000 jobs. So how do you dissect, right? How do you, okay, look at the job description. It asks for many things, but you want to know like what actually the company is looking for, you know? So you need to understand that. First, this is how I do. This is my strategy. This is exactly how I do, and I've seen this very successful in my career and also in my students' career. The first thing is take the job announcement, whatever you see, and copy paste that in a Word file. You can write it down if you want it, but nowadays I think people prefer to do it in a Word document. Copy paste that in a Word document. And take a closer look and review the skills or anything they're looking for, what the job is actually looking for. I have an example in the very next slide, but I'm just giving you this schematic just to show that how you can do it. And then group them, categorize them, and identify the patterns, right? I will tell you what I mean by identifying the patterns and skills. And just see then like where you fit, right? Let me go to the example here. For example, in Indeed, I found a job opportunity announced by Jubilant Genetics. It's a company I guess it's in Bangalore, I believe. I'm not sure. So that's a company in Bangalore. They're looking for a research associate, a product development. I'm sure like this sounds very familiar to you all because everyone, you think like you really fit in this job. Yes, you do. You really do fit in this job. You have all the education and the energy and the capabilities to be in this role. But look at this. Here's how the text is. Here's how the company is asking for. Sometimes it's a little overwhelming. It's confusing. Because if you read this, you don't know what exactly the company is looking for. So what I've done here, just to show you an example, I took the job description and put it in the bullet points like this. First, the education and experience. Of course, every job will ask for your education and what kind of experience you have. Sometimes you may not have experience, right? That's fine. That's totally fine. But there are like 7 major categories the company is looking for people to have. One, the project management. They wanted someone who has some project management experience. And they wanted someone with problem solving, right? And like I was mentioning in my previous slides, they want someone who have experience in documentation and processing and communications. They want like energetic people like you, young and energetic people like you. They want some relationships, like people who can connect with people, because you cannot work alone. You have to work with a team. So they want to know like how team spirit you are. And they want to know people have that decision-making skills, like they have to think independently. They cannot depend on their boss all the time. If there is something going on, some issues coming up, they need to know how to address the issue by themselves, right? So these are the few things which the company is looking for. But if you look into detail, I have highlighted 4 of them here, right? This is what the company is asking multiple times in this post. They're saying like, we need project management. We need project management for this. We need project management for this. We need communication skills. They asked it at least more than 2-3 times in that job application, job post. So that means that is what the company is actually looking for, right? I know they know that you have master's and PhD, but they want this people. So this is exactly what we always miss seeing it. We always list our PhD and our technical skills and all our publications and so on, but that's fine. That's totally fine. And companies get it, but they actually want someone with this specific skills, right? Because you never mention in your resume that you have a good communication, or you have a very good team spirit. Of course, we all have the same text saying like I'm a team player, but they want real examples. So what I did is I kind of taken it a little more detail here. So this is how your resume should be, right? So you say, if you have a BSc, you say like 2 years of experience under bachelor's degree, or maybe like 4 years of experience under master's degree. Or if you have a PhD, that's even more. Like you have relevant experience in the scientific field and association with the project team, because every research is involved in a project. So you have done a lot of project management activities, which you never realized. So this is how I would start putting my thing. So when you do research, if you're a master's MSc student, you have done a small project and you have used a lot of data and you have analyzed the data. And yeah, that's exactly what the company is looking for. And they want to know you have the ability to analyze the data. They want to know like you can work with the teams. Yes, if you have done a small project, or even within your class as a master's MSc student, even within your class, you have done like a lot of small research, or in the lab, you have done some projects, small projects. That's exactly what the company is looking for, right? So yeah, you have communicated with your lecturer, you have communicated with your lab assistant, you've communicated with like the professors, like whoever it is, or maybe within your team or your team lead, or you are the team lead, and you have communicated the information. So that's exactly what the company is looking for. And the technical skills, yes, you can list them. And communication skills, right? That's more important of all, because communication is the key. It doesn't matter what you know. If you cannot tell what you know to other people, it doesn't make any sense, because you need to communicate appropriately. You need to communicate on time, right? So if someone is diagnosed with some like, let's say diabetes, and if the doctor doesn't tell the patient on time, and if he or she takes like 6 months to tell the patient, it's too late. He needs to communicate on time, right? So that's the most important thing that companies are actually looking for. If you have any problem, or if you have any new data, you need to communicate accordingly. They want to know that, right? So you need to know how to talk. You need to know, they need to know that you can present to the team, and they need to know you can document all the information appropriately. You have done all this in your MSc class, or in your PhD days, or in conferences and everything. You have done everything. All you have to do is bring it out in your resume. Unfortunately, we don't do that, but you have to start doing it. And relationships. We all have friends. We all have teammates. We all have classmates. We work as a team most of the times, right? We study together. In your MSc, you study together. So you talk to your lecturers, you talk to your professors, everybody. So you have to bring all that information out in your resume. Like in a very, I'll show you some examples like how you can do it. And you don't want to say in a naive manner, but you want to say it in a very professional manner. So you have to put everything into action, right? Because you have everything. Like I keep saying this many times, I will keep saying this many times in the next few minutes, but you have every possible skills and the experience, and you guys are very smart, especially these days with all this technology. You guys are very good at technology. You know how to find things, you know how to learn things. You guys are very smart, but all you have to do is just sell yourself right? You have to first understand what gap I have. If you have a problem in communication, okay, if I'm not comfortable speaking in front of a team, like a 5 or 10 members, then that's a gap. You need to work on that. You need to start building that strength that you can present. If you don't know how to put a PowerPoint slide, work on that. Get your PowerPoint skills set, right? So bring your strengths outside. You have a lot of strengths. You have to bring it out. So end of the day, you wanted to show the employer, whoever is looking at your resume, they need to know like, wow, this candidate is a very great, fantastic candidate. He has more than I can expect. I know you may not have a research experience. You may not have a work experience. You may be a fresh graduate. It doesn't matter. It's the energy they're looking for in you. So how do you express, again, your unique skills? Like I've been saying, like you have to express your skills and stuff like that, but how do you express that unique skills to employers? Like, you know, you have to stand out of the whole big crowd, right? Imagine if I am a HR manager, I'm looking at your resume. I'm not only looking at your resume, I'm also looking at 1,000 different resumes in one day, right? So I cannot read each and every word, and you cannot expect me to understand everything because I'm not a scientist. I'm not a HR. I'm just an HR manager. I'm not a scientist. But you have to make it very clear so that they can understand, right? These are very simple terms. Don't get paranoid. Don't get scared. It's nothing to scare about. All you're doing is presenting yourself right? So I have a small, I always think about it, and I kind of read in a few books about this mind mapping, right? It's a cool concept. I want you to remember this mind mapping, right? I have some interesting examples I put together for you to remember this. So mind mapping is nothing but just putting yourself a map, right? Like, so it basically is a visual map, like where you create your own map and say, okay, what's next, and so on. You can use like symbols, like small diagrams or cartoons or like images, whatever it is. It's just to organize and visualize your thoughts. For example, you know, it'll be easy if I can show you an example. I thought this would be interesting, right? So tonight, you wanted to have a dinner and you wanted to order some food from outside, right? So the first thing you think, like, how do I order, right? There are like multiple things. Like you want to order food in Swiggy or like Zomato. That's something you need to make the decision. Like there are two different options or maybe more. You need to make the decision. So if you decide Swiggy, then you want to know, like, okay, am I interested to eat pizza or like biryani or dosa or roti? Like every day we want to eat something different, right? So you decide which one you want to go. So when you decide, right, and then you have to group them into these categories. Like instead of saying like pizza, burgers, you want to say like, hey, I want to eat American food today, or maybe I want to eat non-veg. I feel like eating non-veg today, right? You have to group it. So that gives you a little more of an idea that where biryani falls into. Like biryani is a non-veg food, right? Everybody likes biryani. So biryani is a non-veg food. So you want to see that biryani is a non-veg food, not like a single dish, right? I know this is a very silly example, but I just wanted to relate this with my next slide. For example, when you go to the communication, right, there are two different communications. One is written communication. The other one is oral communication, like how you talk in the public. In the written communication, of course, if you are a master's student or a PhD student, you would write a lot of papers and abstracts and reports and data, everything. So that communication needs to be strong as well, right? So if you break that oral communications and written communications into little more detail, for example, oral communications, are you comfortable speaking in the public to a larger audience, or you're only comfortable speaking with like your team, like immediate team? Are you comfortable speaking with your boss? So those are the things you want to know, that how good you are. I'm sure like you all have this experience, but you want to know, you need to identify yourself where you can fit really well, especially when it comes to written. There's a lot of things you do, like scientific papers, posters, articles, and protocols, technical reports, and you can name it. Like there are multiple things you do as a student, or as a PhD student, or as a new job candidate. There's a lot of things that's involved. For example, if it's like abstract, you need to know how to write it in a concise manner, because abstracts, they say like 200 words, 300 words. Bringing that big idea into 200 words is a big skill. Not everybody can do that. That a lot of companies are looking for that. If you want to apply for a grant for like, let's say 5 lakhs Indian rupees, they want you to write no more than 300 words. You have to convince the people in 300 words that this project is worth 5 lakh Indian rupees, right? So you need to know, that's a skill by itself. And you need to know the knowledge of science. You have to translate that. For example, a lot of journalists, they understand science, but not all the people who read the newspapers doesn't understand science. So you need to communicate the science so that everybody can understand, right? That's another skill, right? And following instructions, because every abstracts or papers have some guidelines, and that you need to understand those guidelines. So there are a lot of skills you can learn that will help you, right? When it comes to publications, like stage presence, like how do you talk, how do you walk, how do you show your hand? There are a lot of YouTube. I know, like you guys listen to TEDx talks and so on. Like you can learn a lot of this interesting stuff, right? So this is exactly what the company is looking for. If you can show that, hey, I have done this, I have spoken this, and I am very good in speaking in the public. I am a very good person who can communicate science to non-science people. That's exact the skills companies are looking for, in addition to your master's and PhD. Right? You have to group them, and you have to know that, you have to show that, you have to present that in your resume, in your CV, right? For example, I just highlighted this one here, like oral. When you say like oral presentation, you can tell them, hey, I am really good in public speaking. I can speak in large audience. I have a very clear tone and pitch and volume and so on. So you can say that, right? Now, like Arvind had introduced me, it was a very bold and nice tone he had. And that's very compelling. Like people would completely understand. I'm sure like most of you have that kind of experience. So that's a skill by itself, right? I just want to show you an example here again between two different statements. Like you tell me, take your time and read it and just tell me which one it is. I'm sure like there's no way we can communicate in this presentation, but I just want you to think for yourself, and I will tell you what it is. The first statement says like, I presented at the college competitions on whatever the title is. I just made up the title here. Or the other way to say is like, oh, I'm a motivational, energetic speaker who delivers technical information to college audience. Something more specific, more realistic, with an example. So for example, I said like, hey, I gave a compelling speech, like a strong speech in SS Healthcare-led conference on this title. It was well appreciated. That's an example, real example, right? So that's exactly what you should say. Like if you talk between these two, I'm sorry.
I think if you want to get some reply from the participants, I think they can also tell.
Oh, wonderful. Like, yeah, if you can just say one or two, the number one or number two, which one you think is the best way to say?
Yes, dear participants, you can also interact. This is just you are enhancing your skills. That's all.
Yeah, you can put in the message box.
Yeah.
So statement 1 looks like a general about us, but statement 2 looks like a specific skills about us, saying in a
Exactly.
very specific way.
Okay,
Exactly.
most of them have a message that statement 2.
Yes, I see that. I see like
Yes.
everybody thinks statement 2 is the best. You're right. Because statement 2, one second. Oops, sorry. Yes, you're right, absolutely. Because statement 2 not only tells that you are more energetic and motivational speaker, but also tells the specific example. Because you have given a talk in SS Healthcare. So there are like 50, 60 people who listen to it. The SS Healthcare invited you because they think you are good at it. So that's the best example company can have, right? So if you can give them real examples, or if you're an MSc student, you have participated in a small conference in one of the colleges or in the universities, you can tell them, hey, I presented this in this congress, in this conference last year, and there were like 150 people who listened talk, right? That is the real example. And the companies, the employers will think, wow, that is great because this person can talk to 150 people in a big audience group. So that is the example you should talk about, right? Not just so usually we have the habit of saying, I attended this conference and we presented in this conference. This is my participation certificate. Yes, like you're not the only person who attended the conference. There are like 1,000 other people who attended, right? There are like 500 different conferences in India every year. So you want to stay a little different from that. That's exactly the point. Okay, so now so far I've been talking about how you can present yourself more better, right? The next thing I wanted to spend a little more time is to see like when you are applying for a company, like a job, what do you need to know something about the company also, right? That makes sense because you need to know what company you're applying for, what their interests are, what they're actually doing, what kind of people they may be interested in, right? Nowadays, like I said, you guys are very tech savvy and you can go any website, you can list, there are a lot of resources outside that. So you can go to the company's website and then you can talk to the current or former employees. I can tell you how, but you can talk to all these employees. Like you can call one of them or email them or connect them in LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever it is. You can connect them and talk to them. And a lot of people nowadays are mostly virtual, so they will be more than happy to work with you, right? And look at their websites. Like, every time I go back and forth on the same example, when you order a food, the first thing you do is do the review, right? You read the reviews. You want to know this restaurant has good food or not, what people say about it, right? You need to know that about the company. It's no different from ordering a food, technically speaking. So you need to do all the research you do because that is actually going to make your resume a little different. If you know about the company, the resume is going to look different. If you know what food you're going to order, you know like which restaurant you would pick based on all the reviews, based on what people say about the food and the delivery and whatever it is, right? You need to know that. So I kind of picked one example here, like this is Sun Pharmaceuticals in India. I'm sure like most of you know this company. I went into their website. There are a lot of great things, a lot of cool things they do in the company, right? So I just go and read their articles and see like what they have done in the recent past. If you are called for an interview, you can bring that up, right? You can say, hey, I saw an article about you guys made this product, or maybe like it was approved by like Indian federal, regulatory agencies, which is great. Congratulations. If you say that to the employer, that person would think, wow, this guy has done some research about the company, and you can so that's exactly how you connect with people, right? So you have to understand about the company, and that's more important. And like I said, they have a lot of innovations. For example, like genetic modifications, like specialty medications. Like you can read more about it. Like what specialty medications, what they do, what kind of drugs they do. So do they make any COVID-related drugs, or is there anything to cardiovascular drugs? What kind of products they actually do, right? They may not say in the job description. They may not say like you will be working in cardiovascular. Most of them won't. They just, I'm sure like you would have seen it, but they don't most of the times. But it's good to know Because when you put it in your resume, you know that this company is more focused on like whatever cardiovascular diseases or whatever it is that you can just emphasize in your resume. And when those are the terms, those are the words the company, the employers, the HR managers are looking for, because that they can relate to. Do some SWOT analysis. I know like some of you might know about what I mean by SWOT analysis. Like, what are the strengths of the company? You know, what are the weaknesses of the company? Did the companies have any problem recently? Did they have any recall in their products or anything? It maybe their stock market has gone down, or like maybe some other issues. And what are the opportunities? What are the companies looking to do in the future? Because most of the websites would say what they are thinking to do in the future, right? They will have in their pipeline. They say in the next 5 years we will be launching this drugs for this diseases. So those are the opportunities. That's where you want to find a job, right? And you also need to know what the threats are, because threats are nothing but like, is there any other competitor working against Sun Pharmaceuticals in this case, right? Are they working similar to this drug? Then that's another opportunity you can also think about, right? You can also look, okay, this company has some competitors. Then I should also look into that companies for jobs. So do some research, do some analysis, right? And going back to your food, right? What you want to eat for dinner, right? You have to start connecting with everything what you like. So I also did a small search on the clinicaltrials.gov. So just to show where Sun Pharmaceutical companies are, like what is actually they're doing. I mean, what products they're still working, you know. This clinicaltrials.gov, I'm sure like most of you know, I know SSHCAR is very active in this, and they can help you in this too, because a lot of companies, I mean, their products in the pipeline, in the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, whatever the stage they are, it's listed in the clinicaltrials.gov. So you would know that this company is working on this drug in phase 2, phase 3. Okay, when they are working in phase 3, they may be hiring people. They may be hiring people in the phase 2. They may need more R&D people in phase 1, or maybe they need more people in medical communications in phase 2 or phase 3. So that's something analysis you can do, because that's going to help you as well, you know. And like I said in the beginning, talk to the current and former employees. You know, they will give you some idea. You know, I mean, if they are there in the company, they can tell you what is good about the company, and you know what kind of things the company likes. If they left the company, found a different job, that's something you want to know as well. Why they left the company? Maybe they didn't like it. They thought, you know, the salary is not good, or maybe the culture is not good, or anything. So that's something you want to know, because you don't want to waste your time. You don't want to get into a job which you may have trouble in the future. So do it. So that helps you to try out without getting the job, you know. So when you talk to people, try to be respectful. Don't ask too many questions. Don't ask them like, hey, what's your salary when you were there? That's not the question you should be asking. You should like, you know, so, I mean, are you compensated appropriately in your job? That may be a question you can ask. So yeah, well, talk to the employees. Talk to whoever you know in that company. How can you find the employees, right? So for example, go to the LinkedIn. I'm sure like most of you know LinkedIn. You may be members of LinkedIn, and you may be using LinkedIn very effectively. When I go to LinkedIn and look for Sun Pharma, I saw like 19,000, almost 300 employees, 19,300 employees in Sun Pharma. And these employees are most of them are connected in LinkedIn. There could be some who are not connected in LinkedIn, so it could be more. But even if you consider like 20,000 employees, right? Like, you know, at least 1 or 2 people, not directly, maybe through someone else. Maybe Sheila ma'am can help you connect with someone, and maybe she's connected to them, or I may be able to connect someone, or maybe your professor may be able to connect with someone in the Sun Pharmaceutical. So that's the strategy you should use. So how can you find the people? I don't know how familiar you are again with the LinkedIn, but if you go to the LinkedIn, like I said here, you can pick this people, and it's going to list you like this. It'll tell you like how many people in India, how many people in Mumbai area, how many people in Chennai, how many people in you know, Ahmedabad, something like that. And then even you can go down in detail and say like how many people, I mean, studied in Kendra Vidyalaya, right? Some of you might have studied in Kendra Vidyalaya, maybe in a different location. That's fine. You can reach out to them connect with them and say, hey, I also went to Kendra Vidyalaya. I saw you also, worked, studied in Kendra Vidyalaya. Good to connect. Do you have a few minutes to talk over the phone? I mean, people would love to do that, right? Or maybe you see someone from like Madras University or University of Madras, or you may see someone from IIT. Like, that's how you can narrow down. If you go from the same college or same town, you never know. Maybe someone you or your family might know, your friends might know, your professors might know. So you have to connect with those people because they are the one who can get you inside the job. In my career, most of the times I got jobs just because of people, like, not just because of my resume, not alone. After all this, I'm going back to the same slide I was showing you before, looking at all these opportunities and the different approaches to apply for a job. How can you be more smart? I'm sure like you can think a little different right now, I guess. You can now specify the list, and you can measure where you are, and you can set yourself some reasonable goals, and you see like where I can fit really well, like what would be more relevant to me, and how I can wait. Like if I'm not if I'm completing my MSc next year, then I should start working on what my gaps are so that I can get myself ready for the job. Or if you are defending your PhD next year, if you're submitting your PhD dissertation next year, I think you should start working right now. You don't want to wait till you finish your PhD. You should start talking to people. If you want to apply for a postdoc in US, yes, that's the time to start. If you want to apply for a company job in India, this is the time to start. Right? You start now, and you know what you're good at, and then put together a resume and start working on that and get yourself ready for that. So with all this, I just wanted to stop and give some time for discussion and questions if you need. And here's my email, and here's my phone number if you wanted, and you can always text me in WhatsApp. So I am pretty responsive to that. And you can also connect me LinkedIn, and if you have any suggestions or if you need any help, you can always talk to Sheila ma'am, SS Healthcare, and she can connect me with you, or you can directly connect me with in LinkedIn, and we can always talk. I'll be more than happy to help. And like I always say to my students, like, stay positive. Like I was saying in my previous slides, there are like thousands and hundreds and thousands of opportunities out there. All you have to do is you have to make yourself available. Don't say that like I did not get a job. It's because you did not put yourself in the job market right. Like you are missed out. All your talents, all your energy, all your motivation has been missed out because that one piece of paper which you're sending to HR, your resume or your CV, that is going to determine. So make sure that CV or resume is done right, that catches people's attention. They see you right, they talk to you, and then you express your interest in that, and you get the job. That's pretty straightforward and pretty easy, in my opinion. You can do it. Stay positive. And I would like to stop here and answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Thank you, Prem. Let us see if there are any questions. Participants, if you have any questions regarding anything about today's presentation or or about something, you can just ask him, or you can type that in the chat box, whichever way.
Ma'am, I have a doubt.
Yes, Akshay.
Sir, while we writing a resume, or if you're attending an interview and HR will ask, say about your positives and negatives, weaknesses. Saying positive will be quite easy compared to weakness. So how we can handle it, sir?
That's a very good question.
Weakness in the right manner.
That's a very good question. I think that's a wonderful question. I should thank you for asking that question. So the reason why they ask like what you are not good at is not because they want to reject you. They want to know like, are you really open that you are accepting your weakness, right? That's the most important thing. Like I always tell in my interviews, I'm not really good in managing my time. I am actually don't know how to manage my time. Sometimes I spend like more time for, which, for example, if I can do things in 30 minutes, I take like 2 hours because I want it to be more perfect, right? But you can always tell them that I take more time, but I want it to be do the best. That's why I take more time. But you can always tell them that I'm also trying to see if I can make myself better. I'm working on it. I am actually trying to fix it because that is exactly what the company is looking for. Everybody has problem. Nobody has everything positive, right? If you say like I'm the best, I know everything, nobody's going to believe you. If I tell you that I am the best, I'm sure like you won't believe me because no human being can be best. But they all they look for is person who can accept their weakness and know that the first thing is to accept the weakness, right? The second thing is to improve your weakness. And if you tell them that I have trouble in doing this, but I'm actually working. I've done a lot of things in the last 6 months, which has made things better now. I can do better. I'm still improving, but I will soon. So that is the positive attitude the company is looking for. Did I answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
That is one of the self-analysis that we can make, because you need to identify your strength, also your weakness, and convert that weakness into a strength in a span of time. That is identifying your gaps. Okay.
Exactly.
Dr. Priyadarshini Varman has asked a question. Thank you for the wonderful session, sir. My queries are: number one, what does reference mean on a job application? Number two, how to choose a right reference for the job application?
Yeah, so that's a good question as well. So when they call for reference, they wanted to know people who can speak for you, right? So like if you have done a project with someone, right? They have collaborated with you. They are the right people to give you the reference, not your professor, because everybody can write a reference letter, but like your professor works with like 50 different students in your class, and he's going to send the same reference to all the 50 people, right? At least 40 people. But they don't want that kind of a reference. They want someone who you have worked with, you've collaborated with. If you've done a small project, doesn't matter. That's the person you should be talking to, right? They should be giving references. So sometimes they will ask for 2 or 3 references. So you need to find the people who can speak your work skills, your ethical skills, your ability, not just your technical skills. That person should say, yeah, I've worked with so and so, and this person is very ethical. Like I can trust her, I can trust him. He will deliver things on time. Even if he cannot deliver on time, he will say in advance, sir, I am getting delayed for this reason, but I will deliver tomorrow. Like that's the kind of communication. So that person, who collaborated with you, should say that. If they can say it, that's all the company is looking for. You cannot be perfect all the time, which everybody understands. Nobody is perfect in this world. Everybody can understand that, but you need to be communicating it right. So that person, the collaborator, can say that. The collaborator can say, oh, this person have collaborated with me in this project. We worked with them like 3 days in a week, and this person has done a wonderful job doing specific examples. So if you can find someone who can give that kind of examples, that is the right reference.
Excuse me, sir.
Is there any question?
Yes, hello.
Yes,
Yes.
Sujantana.
Good evening, and thank you for this webinar. I really appreciated your talk. Especially your voice is very compelling, and like it makes the listeners want to listen more. Anyway, my question, if like whenever the interviewers ask for our salary expectations, what are we supposed to say?
That's a very interesting question, because even now, if I go to an interview, they say like, what are you expecting? Well, they're not going to give you everything what you expect, right? That's something which you should know. And so the way I learned to answer this question is like, I would say like, this is what I am getting now. This is how much I'm paid now. I always want to like 20% more than that. Or the other way to say it, like, I don't know about your company. I mean, how much would you pay for people like me with this kind of experience? right? That's another way to just throw the ball back to them. I mean, sometimes it works because they need to realize the people, like a lot of companies stopped asking that question now, but some companies do, especially in India. I know that a lot of companies ask for that. But you should tell them like what kind of salary range. It's not that specific number. It could be range. It could be like, let's say, for example, 50,000 rupees to like 75,000 rupees. If you have like 10 years experience, they will give you 75,000 rupees. If you have 5 years experience, they may give you 60,000 rupees. If you have less, then maybe like 50, right? They have a range. You tell them, you ask them, what is the range you give for people in this kind of a role with my kind of experience? They would say 50 to 75. Then you determine that whether you want to ask 60 or 75, right? So that is the best approach in my experience, because there is no way you can, if you sometimes say like 75, they would say, okay, this is too much. Or if you say 50, they would say like, oh, maybe this person doesn't know what value she or he has, right? So it's always a challenge. You should just throw the ball back into them. There's nothing wrong in doing that. I've done it. It worked. And you can always negotiate. If they say 60, you say like, you know what, I have 5 years experience or maybe 2 years experience. I've done this many projects. You know, I think I'm the best candidate. You know, I would consider 75,000. They would definitely come to 70,000 at least, or 65,000, right? It makes sense. So you have to, I mean, one big mistake we all do, we think like negotiation is the problem. We will lose the opportunity, which is not true. The more desperate you are to find a job, the more desperate the employer is looking for someone like you, right? Because they also need you. It's not like they're not doing a favor for you. They're not helping you. They need smart people. If they are asking the question how much you want to be paid, that means they think you are smart. They think like you are the best candidate. So just take advantage of that situation. Like, don't be too greedy at the same time, but be reasonable, and then you be strong and say like, you know, this is what I'm worth. Let them decide then. That makes sense?
Yes, sir. Thank you. And one more doubt I had, sir. There is this barrier of inexperienced people that are just entered into the industry, or they are not even entered into the industry. They have just like passed out from their college or university. So how do we overcome that barrier? Because most of the companies are looking for people with experiences, but like we also have skills, we who have graduated from universities, but our skills are not enough in the face of experience.
No, that's a very good point, because that's the biggest challenge, not only in India and everywhere in the world. Like, because people always look for more experience. Like, if you have a PhD or a master's, and they should know that you don't have experience because you just graduated. But at the same time, like I was mentioning in my previous slides, they also look for other skills. Like, you know, first of all, let's take one step back and ask ourselves, what do they mean by experience, right? Are they asking for 5 years of experience in doing Western blot, or are they asking for 5 years of experience in communications or like in people relationships? Because most of the experience is about working in a team, working in an organization culture, right? So you can learn a different technique any day. That's not a big deal. If you have a master's, if you have a PhD, and you are good in learning, they already know that. So they are looking for people with some soft skills, right? So you can bring out that skills in your resume. You say, yes, I do not have experience because I just graduated, but I do have experience. I'm a very good communicator. I think outside the box. Here's an example. I can speak in front of the public. Here's an example because I presented in SS Healthcare or whatever it is. So that's the kind of example you wanted to bring out and say, you know, I do not have experience, but I have all the necessary soft skills to gain that experience. Give me an opportunity, I will prove it to you, right? So you can say like, I do not have experience, or you can say like, yes, I do not have experience, but I have this skills, which is the biggest strength I have. I can learn anything what you want in the future. So that's another way of, I mean, there's nothing you can do just to add your experience, right? Your experience has to come by working. They need to give you an opportunity, but they want you to be a strong candidate. They would say, okay, if this person, if I train her for like 3 months or 6 months, I'm sure like she will do well. You know, I don't mind doing it. Let's do it. That's exactly what most of the companies would think.
Thank you so much, sir. It was my pleasure talking with you.
Same here.
Dr. Prem, Suganti has asked a question. Considering job in this competitive world, people would prefer to work or study in university which has good lab facilities so that they can obtain hands-on experience over the instruments over there. How does this exposure affect the individuals academic when they are in colleges which lack those facilities? Still could conduct the experiment by outsourcing. Does that really mean we don't worth something?
So again, I guess you're talking more about the technical skills, right? Technical skills
Yes.
you can learn anywhere in the world. I mean, so when I was doing my master's MSc degree, of course, I mean, I was talking about like 20 years before, 21 years before. Those days, no colleges have that kind of a facility. When I was a student in Sheila ma'am's class, and she can tell like what kind of lab we had, right? We never had much resources at that point. But the companies are not more focused on the technical skills, right? If you are in a college, like in a disadvantaged situation, that college doesn't have an equipment or a lab or any facilities, and you really wanted to learn something new, there are a lot of opportunities you can, because you can collaborate, or you can talk to someone in IIT, or you can talk to someone in Cancer Institute, or you can talk to someone in Bangalore Indian Institute of Science. And I have done that when I was doing my master's and PhD. When my university did not have that much of a facility, so I went to CCMB in Hyderabad, and I went to IISc in Bangalore. I wrote to the professors and I told them, hey, I wanted to do this experiment. We don't have that resources. Can you help me? I went to IBMS many times. I went to Madras University campus every time. I went to IIT. I went all over the place and I did small things. I learned a lot of new things from there. And not only the techniques, but also I have a lot of connections, a lot of friends, and a lot of new, I was invited to present there. So that was another skill I added to my resume. So if you're limited with resources in your college, nobody's going to stop you learning from other colleges, because the government universities are meant to support everybody. They cannot say no. They should not say no. You should talk to them appropriately. You cannot just say like, okay, I want to come and spend some time in your lab. No, don't do that. But just come with a list of questions. Sir, I have this questions. I'm interested in do this kind of experiments, and we don't have the resources. Could you please be mentor and help me doing this experiment? I will complete this in 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and I will make all the arrangements. And they would say yes. Most of them would, in my case, they all said yes. Nobody said no. I even went to NIN, like National Institute of Nutrition. I also went to ICCS in Pune. So I went like everywhere to do like small experiments. Even Western blot. We never had a Western blot at that time in my master's MSc thing. I went to Bangalore to do Western blot. It was funny, but yes, we did. So yeah, there are a lot of opportunities these days. You can always talk, and you can talk to people like Sheila ma'am, or you can talk to any professors, or like people. You can talk to me, and then I can say, hey, maybe this professor, they do this kind of work. Can you write to them? Ask them if they can help you. If you write to 5 people, at least 1 people would say yes. Then you can learn there, right? So yeah. There's no barrier. There's no barrier.
There is no barrier to learn. You can always move from your normal curriculum to learn the skill-based techniques. It's all up to you. You have to develop your skills. You need to. That's all. Any questions?
And again, there are a lot of opportunities these days. Like, I mean, back in 20 years before, we did not have internet, right? We did not have phones. Like now everybody can have access to everything. So it's much easier. And I think it's easy for you to do, and you can do it.
Okay, can we conclude? Is there any questions, please? Anyone? So everyone has said, Pooja has said your talk was excellent. Okay. Mary Denslin, I think she's from Bharati Women's College. Okay, then let us conclude. Thank you for the wonderful session, Dr. Prem.